Hi, I'm Trace Williams. Thank you for joining me for What Do You Think? Tonight's episode, The Ultimate Conspiracy. Theory? At what point do we put all of the conspiracy theories together and realize the truth that has been held from us, the people, for quite possibly centuries? Where shall we begin? The beginning? Somewhere in the middle? Or shall we start now, somewhere at the beginning of the end? Why do we not just start from the beginning as to develop a complete understanding of what is taking place today? I know I may lose some of you with the very first sentence that details the conspiracy to control the world, but if you keep listening or reading, you may find that your entire way of thinking may change. If it does not, this writing may solidify your current philosophy concerning life and the way things are today. I am just here to provide my thoughts and insight on what I believe is currently transpiring and why. Maybe I'll wait a paragraph or two before I lose you. Let's begin with this instead. Have you ever heard the statement, "Divided we fall"? How divided is America today? We seem to have all of these microgroups that make up the body of the country. Who is responsible for these groups? Did we label ourselves? Or did someone larger than we place the labels upon us? The labels, depending on the agenda, are either nice and appealing or negative and demeaning. Flowery letters such as LBGG ... or very negative white supremacists, just to name a couple to help prove a point. Keep in mind, I'm not taking sides. I want to develop a background to where I'm leading you. There are many groups and many labels, and if you do not fit into the categories of the flowery labels already created, you are placed into one of the more derogatory groups. You do not fit into a flowery group if you are a white Christian who believes in the sanctity of life, that the Second Amendment is critical, as is the First and the Fourth, well, the entire Bill of Rights, actually. You belong in a derogatory group if you believe in capitalism over socialism. One belongs in a derogatory group if he or she voices an opinion that may offend a person in a nice and appealing group. Remember, I'm not picking sides. I am merely pointing out the designations of people that do not fit in any of the nice and appealing group types. What group do you belong to if you're a homosexual person of color that believes in Christianity, the Bill of Rights, and capitalism? Or you are a self-proclaimed socialist that may be Muslim yet does not mind that your neighbor is a white capitalist Christian. My point is, someone put a label on each and every one of us. The question is why? What is the purpose behind the different groups and group names? Could it be because divided we fall? Stop here momentarily. Give a few moments to really analyze that topic. Continuing on, the next logical question is, are we, the citizens of this country, not all just plain old Americans? If we go a step farther, are we not all humans? Where did the division of the human race begin? Who was behind the splitting of the race? What is the purpose? Shall we now go back to the beginning? What is good and what is evil? Do you believe in good and evil? Do you believe in good and bad? Do you believe things just are the way they are? Do you even care? Do you believe that good and bad resides, or good and evil resides in the body of the people? Or do you believe that good and evil resides in each and every one of us? What about free will? Does free will allow each of us to decide if we wish to be good or evil? Or does our environment dictate which side of the spectrum we are on? One more question. Which is worse, being good, bad, or apathetic. Here's where I may lose some of you. The battle for control of the world began at the very beginning. It began when Lucifer was cast from heaven. Still with me? I hope so. Even if you believe in complete balance, you still believe in good and bad, or good and evil. Whichever you believe, there must be some guideline that determines which is which. What is that guideline, and who has determined what that guideline is? If we look at things from the standpoint of heaven and hell, God and Satan, good and evil, then the ones who have determined good and evil are God and Satan. If things are the way they are just because they are, then what determines good and bad? Can good and bad be defined by love and selfishness? Can one truly love and be selfish at the same time? Where does love and selfishness begin? Does it not go back to the battle for heaven and earth, good and evil, God and Satan? With all of that being said, did the fall of Satan create the evil discourse on earth? In my humble opinion, I believe that is where all of this began. When the pride of Lucifer overcame him, he and his followers, 1/3 of the remaining angels, battled for the throne of heaven. For those of you who may not know who Lucifer was or is, he was the highest angel in the heavens. His attack was thwarted, and he had then become an outcast of what was to be his eternal home. He was given reign over the entire earth. In order to reign, one must have someone to reign over. He did. The angels who followed Lucifer were also cast down to dwell on the earth. It was after this event that man was created. Along came Adam. The earth had already been inhabited by creatures of the sea, land, and of the air. Adam was given dominion over these creatures and of the Garden of Eden, and his status was greater than the angels that dwelt in heaven and on earth. This did not bode well with Lucifer or Satan or his minions. From this point forward, it was the goal of these former heavenly bodies to destroy mankind. How does a group of former heavenly angels accomplish this agenda? Any way they can. Before the opportunity arose for the corruption of Adam, Eve was created from him and for him. She was created for his accompaniment, for his companionship, friendship, the object of his love, and for procreation. She was his helpmate. They were given one rule to abide by: do not eat of this tree. Lucifer, wanting to destroy God's creation, manipulated Eve into eating of the forbidden fruit. She, in turn, coerced Adam into the same curse. What is the curse? Could it be what we now call corruption? For their disobedience, they too had become outcasts. Their punishment was banishment from the most beautiful setting on the planet, the Garden of Eden. Although they were forgiven for what they had done, they were still reprimanded for their disobedience to God's only command for them. There were other punishments as well, a couple of which are the labor pains of a woman and the toil to eat from the ground for the man. Are you still with me? Good. Satan's curse was to be under the creatures, as he was to crawl on his belly and eat dirt for the remainder of his tenure on earth. He was to be under the heel of Eve and her offspring. God had created all things for good. Lucifer had decided that he would do all things against God. He had rebelled due to his banishment from heaven. Cain and Abel were children of Adam and Eve. They were taught to give thanks to God as they grew, through gifts and sacrifices to God, offerings. Cain had offered to the Lord fruits of the field, while Abel offered the fats of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked down with favor on Abel's offering, yet did not look down with favor on Cain's. This from Genesis chapter 4 of the NIV. Cain grew angry and drew Abel to a field, where he then killed his brother Abel. When asked by the Lord, "Where is his brother?" Cain responded with, "I do not know." The text does not provide where the anger came from. Does this prove that we are all capable of evil? Or at some point was Cain influenced by the serpent? Whatever the case is in this example, anger, murder, and lies were introduced in the passages of Genesis chapter 4. This quote is from Genesis chapter 4, verse 6 of the New International Version of the Bible. The Lord states, quote, "If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." End quote. What is sin? Any action that goes against the will of God, which at some point, are we not all guilty of sin according to this definition? A sin does not make one a hypocrite. It makes one a sinner. What makes one a hypocrite, according to Merriam-Webster, is putting on a false appearance of virtue or religion. On a side note, according to the definition, is the church full of sinners or hypocrites? Adam and Eve were not hypocrites. Cain was not a hypocrite. However, they were all sinners. Some churches are led by hypocrites, others led by sinners. Discernment proves which is which. Stay with me just a little longer and we'll move forward from here. I'm just giving some background on where I believe we came from to get to how we arrived in the place we are today. All of this corruption and sin began the first 4 chapters of the Bible. The other 65 books show even more sin and corruption. The New Testament provides even more evil intent, corruption, and sin. Some are even proven hypocrites. The Pharisees and the Sadducees showed great contempt for Jesus and plotted against him in a corrupt manner. It was at their hands that Jesus was turned over to the Romans by the corruption of Judas. Judas accepted money for an action that he would not have done otherwise. His guilt led him to return the money. However, it was too late to save Jesus from his predestined fate. It was the Israelites that voted to allow the release of a murderer and the condemnation of Jesus. Corruption and manipulation have been on earth since the fall of the angels. But wait, also in Genesis, we are informed of further outcasts from heaven, sent to reside on earth, more fallen angels. The angels that were assigned to watch over the people of the world found that the daughters of men were very attractive, so they came down to take these women for their very own. This went against the desire of God. They too were punished by banishment from heaven by God. At this point, there were many fallen angels cast out of heaven to reside on earth. Could the actions of many be influenced by evil spirits among us? With the base of corruption being laid back to biblical times, we can now fast forward to the influence of Christianity on politics and the influence of politics on Christianity. Through the teachings of Peter and Paul, the Romans in the days of the empire began accepting Jesus as Christ. Peter and Paul had become the leaders of the Christian movement within the Roman Empire. It was made clear that the teachings were that of Jesus and that those teachings should not be changed. The role of the church was to preserve those teachings and preach those teachings as they were written, nothing more. If we move forward, we find that the Christian faith was advanced by the Roman Emperor Constantine. He had his spiritual advisors, yet was not yet a Christian himself. Constantine signed the document making the persecution of Christians an illegal act. The hope behind the document was to end the division within the boundaries of the Roman Empire. That hope allowed for the convergence of Christianity and paganism. The Catholic movement has never been the same. Hence the Protestant movement of Martin Luther. I am just enlightening you with some of the basic background. If you know the basic background and do your own research, you may be surprised at what you find. Put some research into the Superior Jesuit General, also known as the Black Pope. You may find out who the power is behind the power. If you wish to learn how to hide symbolism in plain sight, you may want to take lessons from, you guessed it, the Vatican and the papacy. I'm just pointing in a direction. If you choose to open your mind and look for yourself, you may find, well, I'll leave that to you. I am not criticizing the people of the religion. I am attempting to point you in a direction that may either change your way of thinking or solidify your beliefs. That, my friends, is up to you. Why would the Black Pope or the Supreme Jesuit General have control over the Pope? Could it have anything to do with 1832 and the Rothschild family? Was there money lent to the Vatican? Follow the money in the central banking system. Of what faith is the Rothschild family? Jesuit? Again, I am just asking the questions. If you follow the money in the central banking system, can you see how the power is obtained? What families partnered with the Rothschild family in order to gain control of money, countries, and the citizens of the world? This is not just an American issue. This issue is worldwide. The money behind the music, the money behind Hollywood, America, and other countries around the world, and even the money behind the church stems from one source: the Rothschild cabal. If you research the governing documents of the Roman Catholic religion, you may find that their beliefs and yours do not quite align with one another. I am pointing you in a direction for a reason. The reason is that I believe we have been manipulated for a very long time by the most trusted people on the planet. That is my opinion. Research to see if you may find that your self-education changes your opinion to more align with mine, or will you solidify it to what you already believe? I'm challenging you out of love for all of the brothers and sisters who believe in Jesus, the Savior. Have I lost you yet? I truly hope not. How do we, the people, regain control of our collective lives? We must, first, awaken to the manipulation that has been impressed upon us for centuries. Awareness and knowledge are power. Freedom is power. Awareness and knowledge lead to freedom. Upon further research, one may find that the evangelicals of today are not much different. I'm not saying that all priests, pastors, or ministers are bad actors. But research the year of 2015 and the end of the Protestant movement. What has changed for the better to end the Protestant movement? Has the Roman Catholic Diocese reverted back to the teachings of the original doctrine? Or has it moved further away into secular acceptance? No one gets hurt from false teachings. Or do we? My goal here is not to persecute the Catholic parishioners. It is, however, to enlighten you on the corruption that has occurred behind the scenes, behind the sacred cloth of the papacy, not only behind the walls of the Vatican, but in the faces of a worldwide audience with blatancy. Since Vatican II, has coexistence been placed in the forefront? Has it allowed for more secularism into the church? Not just the Catholic Church, but churches of all denominations. Has any true Orthodox religion survived since the merger of the church and paganism? How has this influenced societies around the globe? Look forward to a continuation of the ultimate conspiracy. I will move into that influence within the confines of the United States of America. My hope is that you do not believe a word in this article. My hope is that you will do your own research to discredit this writing altogether. But be careful. You may not like what you find. I'm Trace Williams. Thank you for joining me, and I'm just asking the question, what do you think? Until next time, have a good day, everybody.